If you're a busy professional and it feels like you're balancing work, family, training, and life, and it feels like your energy is just slipping through your fingers a bit by the end of the day, then I'm really hoping that this video completely changes your mindset on both food and fueling. Because I've been there. The brain fog, the fatigue, the feeling like you can give more in all areas of your life, but you're just running on fumes. I mean, I remember back to training for my first 100-mile ultra race, and I was learning to be a sport nutritionist at the time, and hey, I thought I knew everything about performance. I was training hard and I was eating healthy, but God, I was just absolutely drained. And this isn't ideal when I was also trying to have a bit of a social life. So when you're trying to then be friendly and fun, but you just deep down feels like you're putting on a face and you wished you had the energy to enable you to be that best version of yourself. My energy was just disappearing mid-afternoon at work, and I wasn't able to perform my best or really push in my career either. So I was in this cycle until I really started to practice all of the sport nutrition strategies that I was learning about, working out through trial and error which ones worked, how to actually be informed by the evidence and then apply it to my unique routine, my social life, my work life, my family life. So if you're doing everything the fitness industry says you should, but your body just isn't responding, it's not because you're just getting older, it's not because you're not mentally disciplined enough, it's just because your fueling isn't aligned to the work that you're doing or your lifestyle that you're trying to lead. So it really changed for me when I started practicing all of these sport nutrition strategies that I was learning about in my early career as a sport nutritionist. I was working out through trial and error what worked, what didn't, how to actually put it into practice in my lifestyle. I had a real aha moment when I was able to actually book on to the Dragon's Back race, which is quite a large ultra endurance race. And to be honest, it's any race since then, but that feeling of being able to book onto a big challenge because you know that I've got the knowledge and the sport nutrition practices that are going to enable me to feel good throughout the whole training process. This aha moment when I was signing on really made me realize that the secret to consistent energy isn't more discipline and just pushing through. It's actually better systems and full energy management. And that is what I'm going to be trying to coach you in this video. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to eat for longevity in terms of longevity within your sport, but also health and longevity full stop, without having to rely on restrictive diets to manage your body composition or the latest craze to try and get you feeling good for that short space of time, or even an over-reliance on caffeine to get you feeling like you've got enough mental energy for that presentation at work. I'm also going to share with you how one of my clients, James, a father of two and full-time project manager in a bank, went from getting home and feeling absolutely wiped out, like he's got no energy to do anything, to feeling well-fueled and confident that he can go and execute his entire training plan as he builds towards both a 50k and a 100k ultra while still being present as a dad. And the good news is that these aren't groundbreaking strategies. Anyone can do them. It's just understanding how to implement them in your lifestyle. So that's what I'm going to be coaching you right now. So most people think good energy levels come from discipline, getting up at the same time regardless of how they feel, eating or following that restrictive diet or sticking to their calorie budget, just hitting their macronutrients, particularly protein, and then relying on coffee for the immediate energy hit when they really need it. But the truth, energy is more like a system or a machine, and that unfortunately most people are trying to power that machine with broken parts. For example, you wake up feeling a little bit tired, you've got a busy morning, so you train fasted, you forget the refuel, then you're relying on coffee to get you through the morning meetings, and then it gets to 3 p.m. and you're really quite hangry, you've got big cravings, and then you're falling off a cliff in terms of energy, and maybe you're having a nap on the way home. Those feelings of fatigue only mount when you get home and you probably want to eat the kids' leftover food, or maybe actually raid the sweet drawer to get that extra fix, and you really just have to scratch that sweet treat craving. You then probably have quite a big dinner and maybe something sweet afterwards because you're still hungry, go to bed, wake up tired, and do it all over again. Now obviously this is an extreme example, but if some of that resonates with you, then you need to listen to the end of this video because we are going to fix this system. And it's not going to be through discipline. So if you're someone who's thinking, well, I'm not that disciplined or dedicated, no stress. We're going to do this in a really, really easy way. Remember, you're not lazy. You're just underfueled and misaligned. So bear with me, we will fix it. Let's think about it for a second. The diet culture is normally very much a calories paradigm. So the whole context of diet quality, food timing, carbohydrate totals, and fueling and refueling are sort of non-existent in that space. So if you've been living in the diet culture and the calories paradigm for a prolonged period, then it's natural that you're not going to be thinking about these these things as a way of actually increasing your energy or improving your body composition as you age. I mean, when I stopped chasing the perfect diet and started mapping my nutrition around my training and on improving my performance, everything changed. Not only did my recovery, performance, energy levels increase, but also I stopped having those feelings of guilt around eating certain foods because I actually didn't want them as much anymore. So when I did then have them, I felt so much more in control and was able to be much more present in that moment. And interestingly, this exact same thing has happened with Pete, who's one of my clients, and I'm going to talk you through his story too. So whether you're running a company or running a marathon, the principle is the same. You need to eat the right energy at the right time for the right purpose. We'll call it performance energy mapping, and it's about syncing your energy with your daily rhythm. We're going to cover 4 key topics in this. So we're going to be looking at foundational energy, we're going to be looking at strategic fueling, hydration and recovery, and longevity and gut health. We're going to be getting back to basics, except I'm going to explain the basics in a way that will hopefully land with you and give you some practical strategies of how to actually implement these so that you can start feeling better. Foundational energy. Let's build that foundation. And to be honest, this is where 90% of people go wrong. So we want to have stable energy across the day. So the first thing I want you to think about is splitting your energy a bit more evenly over the day. And depending on where you train, so if you go for a run in the morning or at lunch or in the evening, have more energy around that part of the day. That's going to give your body what it needs. So practically, that's probably going to be having a bigger breakfast, having a refuel afterwards, as well as maybe a second breakfast or a second lunch. It's having extra food, sandwiching it around your training. Then your body isn't in this state of super low energy. It's actually got what it needs. That will then translate into better energy levels outside of those times. So if you're then got a presentation in the evening, or you've got that busy meeting in the mid-morning, you're not absolutely on the floor. So we also want to think about building this foundation from your body's perspective. And your body absolutely loves routine. It craves it. So I would consider breaking fast or having breakfast at the same time most days, and then trying, if possible, having your main meals, so lunch and dinner, also at similar times of day. Why do this? Well, if you're in a habit at the moment where sometimes you eat breakfast super early, 5, 6 a.m, or sometimes you fast until 10 and then lunch gets pushed back, sometimes it's early at 11:30, sometimes it's 1 or 2 or 3, and then sometimes we eat dinner with the kids at 6, sometimes it's in the evening at 9. And then we wonder why we're hungry all day. Well, if we try and think about that from your body's perspective, it's used to having food all of the time. It doesn't know when we're normally meant to be eating. So the cues it's going to be giving you are you hungry now? Are you hungry now? Versus if we start setting key times, I normally have breakfast at this time, I normally have lunch at this time, and I normally stop eating at this time. Then outside of those time windows, your body isn't going to be giving you as many hunger cues. This means it's going to be a lot easier to manage that mid-morning meeting where someone puts a platter of bourbons out in front of you. This will then also make it easier to have high quality snacks. Because you're not as ravenous for food between meals, you can then make more strategic decisions that don't rely you to flex that discipline quite so much because, hey, maybe I've packed my apple and peanut butter instead of having the cakes or whatever is available from Jane's birthday. By pairing your snacks, so if it's fruit, for example, with something with some fiber and fat, like pairing fruit with nuts or even fruit with cheese, instead of getting the short, sharp sugar releases, we're having a little bit more mellow release. So then we've got our key meals coming in at times the body is used to, and then you can make nutritious decisions that aren't relying on discipline quite so much, and they're going to help you get through those in-between phases if you're someone who prefers to snack. Now, if you're someone who doesn't prefer to snack, great, that's fine. You don't need to have snacks in your diet. In fact, snacking is more of a genetic predisposition. So ideally, we've got our meals coming in at similar times, and what I'm hoping that you have in these meals is I'm going to call them mixed macronutrient meals. So we're aiming for some slow releasing carbohydrate. So think about the healthy carbs, the carbohydrates that are paired with more fiber. So they are your whole grain carbohydrates, they're your veggie carbohydrates, they're your tubers, they're all the brown varieties of rice and pasta and bread. But having them in a meal which isn't just on their own, because hey, we don't just eat carbs, we eat meals, we eat snacks. So making sure that there's an obvious protein element as well as a moderate fat element. If we can combine all those together, so if you're having some leftover pasta for your lunch, but you finished all the veg that you had in the evening, could you have maybe cooked a little bit more veg so that when you're then portioning out your leftovers, there's definitely some extra asparagus tips in there. That's going to give you that little bit of extra fiber. That's going to slow the release of the pasta that's coming in. Is there an obvious protein element still? Do you need to plan that in? Could we sprinkle a little bit of cheese on there as well, so there's a higher fat element, giving you a more sustained release of energy through the early afternoon instead of the short, sharp hit? Something I often see as well is having small on-the-go options. So if you're going down to Tesco Express to make the healthy choice and you pick up a salad and you read on the back that it's 350 calories, but you've already had breakfast and then you might have run, or you might have been running at lunch, or you might be planning to run later, having this such small amount of energy isn't going to be enough to sustain you or your energy levels for the run itself. I mean, if we think about this, you're probably going to be having or needing around 2,000, 2,500 or more calories. So if you're going to be running, that's going to be probably around 400, 500, 600 calories. Having 300 calories coming in at lunch, although it seems like the healthy choice, isn't enough. So make sure we put enough in these meals. So if we do that and we lift up the amount of food coming in at breakfast and lunch, then what's going to happen is you'll get to dinner and you won't want to eat absolutely everything. There is a bit of a leap of faith there though. So be mindful in that evening space and be careful that you're not just piling it all on based on habit. So think about how you actually feel when you're portioning out your evening meal, because you've had more food when your body really needs it. So the goal is to try and keep your energy available, not just being reactive to how you feel, not going out and smashing it on hardly any energy and then feeling super drained and then having to eat really big. Let's plan for it. So now, a habit that I really try and coach with my clients is mapping their training across the week. So writing down when they're gonna do set run at set time, because if you know this information, instead of just trying to cram it in here and here, if you're able to actually prioritize it at a certain time in your day or across your week, then you can start being informed on when you're going to eat certain meals. So you know that if every Tuesday morning you're going to get up and do your hard session, well then Monday evening needs to have a bit more food so that you're going to be topping up going into that. And Tuesday breakfast that you might have immediately after probably needs to be a big carb-rich breakfast instead of a grab-and-go packet of toast or something and out the door. We actually need to have something bigger and more substantial so that you're then feeling better through the rest of Tuesday morning. So the habit that I'm going to encourage here is writing down when you train. So not just looking at what your coach has given you, but write down the time. And then the meals before, make sure that there's some obvious carbohydrate elements, that the meal is going to be big enough to give you the energy. And then also that meal afterwards, make sure that there's enough food in that one too. Now, if you're thinking, but James, I'm trying to lose weight, how am I managing this? You're just telling me to eat loads more food. This is going to sound a little bit revolutionary, but for now, don't worry about weight loss. Let's try and program your body into thinking that it knows it's going to be fueled for the next 3 weeks. How do we do that? Well, we start actually following this sort of process. We start giving it what it needs and when. Because at the moment, what your body is thinking is, based on the last 3 weeks, I've been pushed to run really hard in an underfueled state. Therefore, I'm quite stressed. Therefore, when energy is available, I'm going to grab it and store it, and I'm not going to be performing at my best because I'm in this stressed out state. So if we can start putting all of this into practice, then what's going to happen is your body's going to think, great, I now know that this is going to be happening, and it will get a couple of weeks in, 2, 3, 4 weeks in, your body's going to be like, okay, I now think, based on the previous last few weeks, that I'm going to be pushed, but there's going to be fuel available. That's when all the good things start to happen. That's when performance starts to really increase. That's when, if we do introduce a slight deficit, your body doesn't fight it as much. And that is going to be the answer to long-term weight loss while feeling good with your energy levels. So strategic fueling. So if you train and work long hours, then we need to start planning for the day ahead instead of being reactive to how we feel. For example, a strength or run day needs to have more carbohydrate. So be critical, think back what you're doing at the moment. Are you having the same breakfast regardless of what you're doing? A really simple swap here is keep the same breakfast, but just add a couple of portions of extra fruit with it. If you have that as dessert to the meal, it's not going to suddenly spike your blood glucose, but it's going to give you that extra carbohydrate to allow you to perform. Then on a rest day or an office day where you're moving around a little bit less, you're stationary a little bit more, let's focus on slightly less carbohydrate, but also minimizing fat a little bit. That's going to help you create the energy deficit or just create energy balance, depending on your goals. So the focus there is going to be on lean protein sources, doubling down on veg so that you still have extra volume or a large volume of food despite having less carbohydrate. Another really helpful tip is to focus in on color. Now this is both on training days and rest days. Why color, James? Because color represents different vitamins and minerals, different plant chemicals, different phytonutrients. Now, what I normally see is clients that come and work with me, they normally start with, James, I eat pretty well, but, and then the but is something to do with energy levels or just not performing or being stuck in a plateau. Now, they do eat a healthy diet, so we look at it, and when we look at it through a tight lens, yes, that diet is healthy. But I tend to see that it's the same healthy foods coming in, day out. There's a bit of a lack of variety. Now, what's the impact of this? Well, we're trying to get an optimal intake of the 26 different vitamins and minerals. Now, no one really explains why. So vitamins and minerals, what they're going to be doing is they're acting as enzymes or cofactors in all of the metabolic reactions that are going in your body. So there's literally thousands and thousands of metabolic reactions going on in your body every second. You're a walking chemistry set. And for these to be functioning optimally, we need a full set or an optimal amount of the vitamins and minerals so that they're able to upregulate and downregulate these reactions to the best of their ability, or actually so that you can function and feel better and recover better and have better immunity. To get that optimal intake, it makes sense to have a wider range of food, because that healthy diet, that's a small range, it might be lacking in a certain few vitamins and minerals. Because food is a big mix of different vitamins and minerals, if we're eating that same range, then we might just be a bit low. But if we're eating a bigger range, then our body has the opportunity to bring up all of the vitamins and minerals that we need. Getting them from food is best because our body digests it a little bit further down in the gut and then is able to take out what it needs, instead of having a multivitamin and actually being doused with potentially more than it needs. So when plating up these meals, we're trying to get timing right. We're trying to have a balance of macronutrients, so some complex carbohydrate, veggies, a high fat element as well as a high protein element, guiding the size of that based on how much exercise you're doing at that time of day. And then we're also focusing on trying to have a bit of color. Now, easy wins here are fruit and vegetables, because they're going to be some of the most colorful foods that we can have, and then varying it. So if you're normally used to having some sort of salad for lunch, great, let's expand on that habit. Keep the same type of template, but just vary the foods a little bit. So have a few different salad veg. So instead of having cucumber and tomatoes, cool, we're gonna have some diced celery in there. We're gonna have some raw courgette, chop it finely and get that in there. We're gonna have yellow tomatoes instead of red ones. We're gonna put some beetroot in there and get a bit of a red color. We're gonna sprinkle on some raisins or cranberries on top to get a few different elements. We're then gonna vary the carb option too. So that would be, instead of having pasta in there, we can have some quinoa or some couscous. Just get a packet of glorious grains, the Jamie Oliver one, for example, or other brands are available. But let's say the Merchant Gourmet, you can get a packet of dal, sprinkle some of those in. So we've got something a bit different. We want variety, we want color. That's going to be one of the keys to you feeling better and having a more nutritious and healthful diet long term. Now that's the key for longevity. Now I've rather pivoted a little bit into longevity there, but the reason for that is all of these nutrition elements are so interlinked. So if we can get your fueling better, if we can get your energy levels better, but also get you thinking about food differently, get you more excited to want to have a more colorful plate. And actually, you're going to start feeling better too. You're going to have better mood. You're going to feel more confident. And these are all the practices, these are all the habits that I teach in my Performance Accelerator program. So if you're curious about how one-to-one coaching could actually improve your energy levels, or if you've tried to do a lot of these habits but it hasn't quite stuck and you want some extra guidance from a qualified registered professional like myself or one of my team, so consider booking a discovery call with me to chat about if the Performance Accelerator program would be the right thing for you. I'll put the link to my calendar in the caption. So next up is hydration and recovery. And I'm going to kick things off by doing a bit of myth busting, because I think the claim of caffeinated drinks don't hydrate you is very much overstated. So caffeine does have a slight diuretic effect. However, it's minimal. The way that you can sort of help quantify this is if you know how many milligrams of caffeine are in a beverage. So for example, a big tin of Monster or Relentless, like a really high strength caffeinated drink, which might be 200 or 250 milligrams of caffeine. But because they're big drinks, they're normally bigger than 330, they're normally 500 milliliters. If you subtract the amount of milligrams of caffeine by the volume, so 500 to minus 250, then you're still having that net positive. So basically, unless you're trying to hydrate on solely double espressos, where the volume of the drink is really small, 60 milliliters, but caffeine is high, almost 200, okay, that one might be dehydrating you a little bit, but no one is really going around only drinking double espressos to try and hydrate. Really, if there's enough fluid in the beverage, then it's going to be having a net positive. I mean, let's take tea, for example. You have a normal cup of tea, maybe it's 300 milliliters, then it's probably only 30, 40, 50, maybe 60, if it's a high strength tea, milligrams of caffeine in there. So your net is still going to be about plus 250 milliliters. So what that means is you can still have your coffee, you can still have your tea, and actually you can see that as adding towards your hydration status. Most people think hydration and they only think about drinking water. And I then hear clients overhydrating because suddenly they're having 4 liters of water every day. And to be honest, this is a bit excessive. If you find that you're on the toilet constantly, you're probably drinking too much water. Good hydration is about balance. It's about the balance between sodium and water. So basically, we can strip good hydration right back to drinking to thirst. So what's going to actually help with this from a practical standpoint is having some drinks that you like to drink. So if that is tea, great, have some tea, but maybe we move away from the caffeinated stuff after 12 o'clock. We move towards herbal teas. If you like to have something that's not just plain water, could you add a slice of lemon, cucumber, some mint in there so that it has a bit of flavor? Even just having a little splash of squash in there. Then have this beverage and put it somewhere where you can see it. So have it on your desk, because then while you're typing away doing emails, if you just see it, it's going to cue the thought, am I thirsty? If it is, you can have a little drink. It's as simple as that. It's when you go prolonged periods without drinking and then you get really thirsty and then you have to drink loads all at once, and that's not going to be as optimal from a hydration standpoint, because when you drink a larger volume of fluid all at once, it cues the antidiuretic response. So it cues that we've just had loads of fluid, we should probably get rid of some of this, and therefore that's not going to hydrate you as well. So small and often throughout the day, having drinks that you like the taste of is probably going to be all you need from a hydration standpoint, with the caveat around your running. So what I find is most people, they don't drink any fluid for anything up to say an hour. And to be honest, they don't need to. However, if you're training towards a run that's going to be longer, half marathon, marathon, and you're going to be running for longer than an hour, then what you're doing in those hour runs is you're training, or you're building a habit of not drinking to thirst, of not listening to your body's cues, and also practically not getting used to running carrying any fluid. Then it gets to race day and you're sipping so infrequently that you get very dehydrated. And also your stomach isn't going to be used to taking that fluid through and actually hydrating you. So my recommendation is, even if you don't necessarily need to have a huge amount of fluid while you're training, still take some with you so that you can practice just drinking to thirst. That's all we need to do, just having some fluid to drink to thirst. If you're doing a hot and sweaty gym session, take your bottle with you, pop it behind the dumbbell rack, then every so often just have a little bit. The other side benefit of that is it means you're not going to be quite as low afterwards from a dehydration standpoint. Now, although that hour session probably isn't enough to drop past 2% body weight and actually have an impact on performance negatively, but it does mean that you have to drink less afterwards to optimally rehydrate. So let's say you're doing a 6-7 p.m. session. If you're drinking a little bit more during, and I'm not saying we're drinking to try and maintain body weight, we're just having a little bit, drinking to thirst, then afterwards, best practice guidelines are to have 1.5 times the amount of weight you've lost. So you're going to need some fluid afterwards. If that body weight drop is less, then you don't have to drink quite so much after. That's going to be a good thing, because then it's likely that you're not going to be as low or dehydrated while you're sleeping and recovering, or you're not going to have to drink huge amounts, have that bolus effect, and then being woken up in the middle of the night needing to wee. I hope that makes sense. In terms of recovery, let's keep things really, really simple here. Now, I think the marketing companies in the protein space have done a fantastic job of making us all think that we just need protein to recover. So we're all having our protein shakes straight after the training. The reality with protein is that we're trying to get it in over the day. So if you're eating something after a workout, Sure, have some protein. That's going to help you get towards your high protein total. But realistically, we want carbohydrate as well as protein after a workout. So when I was talking about having big meals and making sure that there's enough energy coming in around your session, one of the main factors here is carbohydrate. Because if you've gone for a run, if you've done a hard gym class, we've reduced your petrol tank. And that petrol tank is a carbohydrate petrol tank. So having some carbohydrate in the hour after is going to be absolutely fundamental to help you recover. This is one of the reasons why planning your week in terms of when you train and the timing is going to be really helpful, because then you'll know, oh, on Wednesdays when I normally have dinner with my wife at 8 p.m, but I'm getting back from training at 6 p.m, there's a 2-hour gap there. So actually I'm going to need something when I get home. That could be as simple as I've got some bread in the freezer, I can have a couple of slices of toast when I get back and enjoy them with a bit of jam. Because hey, having something a little bit sweeter in that hour is going to be fine too. Planning your carbohydrate after your workout is going to be so helpful. So if you're busy, if you're on the go, if you're squeezing in your gym session at 6 a.m. or something, and then you've got to get the train into London, plan in a big smoothie so that you can drink that on the train and you can start getting that carbohydrate back in so that you're feeling good. You're feeling good in the morning. Then you can actually have your soaked oats breakfast at 9 a.m, because you've already had a big hit of carbohydrate. We've put more total calories around that session. That will be so helpful, and suddenly you can come back and give this a subscribe when you're feeling much better throughout the rest of your morning. Okay, next up, longevity and gut health, and these two are very much linked. So to help with gut health, we need to really start treating our microbes, so all these bacteria that live on and in us, with respect. We want to try and get them working as well as physically possible, because it's what's called a synergistic relationship. We look after them and they very much look after us too. Now, in terms of immunity, like that word is bandied about a lot by nutritionists, but no one really explains why or how bacteria can actually help with your immunity. So let's just imagine here that you're getting on public transport and you're holding onto something, and then, oh God, you've got a little itch in your eye, and that pathogen that was on the holding rail is now into your system. It's coming in through your eye and it's going to try and lodge itself somewhere in your small intestine where it's going to be trying to multiply and thrive. Now, if you've got a wide enough range of bacteria in your gut, there might be something that can flag that pathogen. It can see it, and actually it's gonna move over there and sort of crowd around that pathogen so that it doesn't get to the point where it's multiplied and thrived enough so that your body sees it and thinks, whoa, alarm bells, immune response. The immune response is the feeling that you get when you're like, oh, I feel a bit under the weather, or I've got a cough or cold brewing. So what we need to do is have a wide range of different bacteria. That's going to be one of the key metrics of, let's say, if you were to do a stool sample, send it off to a lab to get analyzed because you're interested in finding out if you've got a healthy microbiome. One of the things that they're going to assess there is the range of bacteria in your gut. And that's going to be one of the key metrics to determine if you've got a healthy gut. So it kind of makes sense now when you explain it like that to think, right, if I need a wide range of different bacteria, I need to feed those bacteria a wide range of different foods that they like to eat. Because then if there's some sort of bacteria that's in there in such a minute amount that suddenly starts getting some food, it's going to multiply and thrive. And then it's going to get to a point where it's actually going to be able to be beneficial. So hopefully the question on your lips now is, well, what food do our bacteria love to eat? And that is fiber. So high fiber diets, yes, double thumbs up. Plant food. Now, what is fiber? Fiber is the structural component of plants. So it's the kind of, if we had my celery here, the kind of thing that holds celery up and keeps it rigid. Now, we don't actually digest, we don't get much energy from that, but the bacteria in our gut metabolize it. And when we starve our microbes, so let's say I've had clients do a ketogenic diet or tried the carnivore diet for a bit, and then have come to me with gut issues. They can no longer tolerate and absorb some carbohydrate because basically they've starved their bacteria. They've reduced in volume so much that they've got no food to eat. And then what happens is they start eating the lining of our gut, which then leads to leaky gut and IBS symptoms. So we want to really prioritize feeding our gut lots of healthy fiber. This is where that 30 plant foods across the week has come from. So trying to be critical and think, okay, do I eat a good range of different plants, of different fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, herbs? All of those will count. So it doesn't just have to be fruit and veg. But if we can really start to look after and nurture our gut by expanding the range of different foods, again, linking back to why having more color on the plate is going to be really helpful, then we're going to be doing something really positive for our gut. Another gut piece that's going to be well linked to longevity is adding more pro and prebiotic foods to our gut. So prebiotic foods, they are going to be foods that they're particular fibers that the healthy bacteria in our gut just love to eat. So drinks, things like kefir, things like kombucha. I mean, to try and get these coming in regularly, my wife and I have a subscription to a kombucha company, and it feels quite bougie, but it's one way of sort of ensuring that every day, every other day, we might have a bottle of kombucha, and it's just getting another little probiotic hit coming in regularly. The whole point of these probiotic foods, or maybe not the whole point, but one thing to try and encourage longevity with your gut health is to have them coming in consistently. So it's not just a case of buying some sauerkraut and then never touching it, or buying it and then having that once a year. No, we want to try and find ways that you can introduce them into your diet consistently. So maybe you build a habit of having either sauerkraut or kimchi coming in with your salads or as a filler in your wraps or sandwiches, or you like to maybe have them on eggs on toast on the weekend. Those habits are going to be key, because what we're looking to do is gradually increase the portions of probiotic foods coming in. So I've mentioned a few drinks: kombucha, kefir, way of getting kefir into the diet. So this is if you're okay with dairy, because most kefirs are fermented milk. If you're making like a porridge, or maybe not porridge because you heat it, if you're making soaked oats, then adding some kefir to it and doing it maybe 50-50 with the milk that you would normally have means that you don't get a full tang of the fermented element, but you actually get a probiotic serving. So it's going to be a little bit more mellow because you've got the milk that you normally have, and it's just a super easy way of getting it in. Or if you're doing a protein shake and you're having that as part of your recovery smoothie, adding in some kefir to that. You only need maybe 150 milliliters to get that probiotic portion from kefir. Also, a little tip is try and look in the Polish section of your supermarket. You'll probably find a litre bottle of kefir that'll be half the price as the fancy brands in the yogurt aisle, because it's not as branded as being, yay, fantastic for your gut. Other probiotic foods to consider, ones I've mentioned there, sauerkraut and kimchi, but you could consider tempeh as well. Miso is another fantastic one. So as filming this, we're coming into November, so we're getting a little bit colder. Having some miso soups, well, from a hydration standpoint, fantastic, because there's salt in there. As I explained with the hydration, it's all about that balance between fluid and sodium. So if you've done a really heavy, sweaty session, having a miso soup afterwards is actually going to be fantastic for rehydration. Or if you're looking to manage weight, then having that as a snack option is going to be, a really, really healthful habit, because you're doing something that's fairly low energy but has a probiotic portion. I'll put a PDF of some probiotic foods to consider in the notes of this as well. Then getting on to the prebiotic foods. So I've mentioned what they are. They are food for our healthy bacteria. Examples of these are basically all the foods that make you a little bit windy. So the more you eat, the more you fart. But really, beans and legumes, they're fantastic. You've got protein in them, you've got fiber in them, they're prebiotics, so they're great for your gut. But increasing these gradually into your diet is what I would highly recommend, because suddenly doubling down when your gut bacteria don't quite have enough of the bacteria to really sort of digest them and metabolize them well, is going to result in large amounts of wind. So ease into these gradually. Other examples of prebiotic foods are going to be things like green banana, apples, oats, but also the bran of whole grain. So oat bran, wheat bran, even things like seaweed is prebiotic too. And then you've got chicory. So inulin, chicory, it's the same thing. That's normally, if you get like a diet whey, it's all marketing, but one of the things they're saying diet is they'll put some fiber in it. The fiber that they'll normally use is either chicory, or in its fructooligosaccharide form, or inulin form. Now this is a healthy ingredient, don't get me wrong, but when you supplement with a powdered form of chicory, inulin or fructooligosaccharide, then it's very easy to have more than you might need. So when I used to work at Harlequins, the guys would be like, hopefully this isn't slander, but the Maxi Nutrition protein bars, they're like, those bars are just fart bars. And I was reading on them, and all the players obviously thought it was all the protein, but actually these bars had large amounts of fructooligosaccharide in, which is a prebiotic fiber. And if their gut isn't used to that, they're all just now farting loads. So being mindful of large volumes of supplemental chicory is something to be a little bit mindful of. Other key things for longevity are not chronically being underfueled, because that's going to mean you're not in a stressed state. So actually prioritizing having those larger meals around training, as I've discussed with the strategic fueling and the foundations, is going to be really, really helpful. So I really hope I've sold you on how positive and beneficial fiber is for our longevity. There's also a huge amount of research suggesting having more fiber in your diet, especially because fiber is going to be a type of carbohydrate. It's going to mean that you're lowering the glycemic index of the carbs that you're having if you're having carbs that contain more fiber. There's research suggesting that lower glycemic index diets are better for long-term weight loss. They're better for longevity too. So I am all for eating lots of fiber, except if you are someone who really struggles with, let's call it, lower body GI symptoms while you're running, read needing to find a porta toilet immediately, or you're prone to a bush poo, then what we need to do is consider reducing fiber in maybe the 2 meals before. So let's say you're doing your long run on a Sunday, and that's the one you're always a little bit nervous about, that, well, I'm gonna have to pack the wet wipes. On the Saturday, your Saturday evening and Saturday lunch, reduce high fiber elements, because then there's going to be less undigested food in your gut. That is going to be one of the main triggers, having a large amount of undigested food in your gut that you're then bouncing up and down and you're going running. That's going to stop you. Having that large amount of undigested food in your gut is going to be that main signal to evacuate. So going low fiber there is going to be quite helpful. Outside of that, yes, we want fiber apart from those 2 meals. You want to be eating high fiber foods the vast majority of the time, except before specific key runs where you're nervous that you're going to be experiencing that bush poo situation. So on those days, the day before, you're going to be having lower fiber foods in the lunch and dinner the evening before. Why is it good to eat high fiber around the rest of your training? Well, it's actually going to start training your gut to be able to tolerate more undigested food. So if you're doing all of that in training and actually pushing the boundary a little bit, because if you go on your long run and you feel like you're having some of those symptoms, you can reduce the intensity to sort of manage the symptoms. All of that is going to start training your gut. But the key one, on race day, make sure you practice the low fiber strategy, because you don't want to be slowing down on race day. You want to be able to push and hold your highest pace. So we want to reduce the risk of having any GI issues by going super low fiber on the entirety of race day -1. I think I can summarize that as using fiber intelligently, using high fiber when you can. I would encourage you to start thinking about the meals you're eating in terms of how much fiber is in them, because really going high fiber the vast majority of the time isn't just going to be good for testing your gut and running, but actually having more fiber is going to mellow your blood glucose response so that you've got more consistent energy at work and in those meetings too. Then dropping fiber down just the day before your race so you're able to execute without any worry. So let's look now at how my client James put all of this into practice. Now, he is a busy father of 2. He works in a bank as a project manager, so has a lot on his plate. And he was getting home from work, wasn't able to do any training because he was just, in his words, so flat, so tired, he didn't have the energy to actually do anything. So what did we do? Well, first off, we addressed his current habits. So these were training fasted, these were having meals that weren't or didn't change according to what he was doing or what he was planning to do that day. So we stripped it right back. We actually got him to plan his week. He had some sessions that he used to just try and fit in when he had the energy, but we said, right, ideally, when would be the best time, or when would you like to be able to do this session? We planned them in and prioritized them. Then we mapped his nutrition around it. And this is something that you can do too. So plug in when you're going to do your runs, and then start thinking about having enough carbohydrate in the meals before and the meal immediately after, so that you've got high energy going into that session, you feel good, you execute the run well, and then you've got ample carbohydrate and food, so enough protein as well, coming in after, so that you can recover well and then have energy for your actual life outside of running. So I advised on James's fueling rhythm, so the timing of his meals. So we actually gave him a set lunchtime, so that it was a time when he could get away from his laptop or being in the bank trying to get outside, so that he actually single tasked when he ate. I think his stress levels were quite high because it felt like he was managing a load of things and food was an afterthought as something just to get some calories in. But actually, if we can try and bring food higher at the priority list, give you time back to enjoy the food, eat slowly. James was someone who ate very, very quickly, which didn't help his digestion or help his brain register that he is eating food. So actually, by programming in these sort of times of day for eating, it enabled him to feel better about food and ultimately eat less and more mindfully. So not only did his energy levels come up, he was actually eating slightly less, but it didn't feel like he was. So in that sense, he didn't go on a diet. He wasn't feeling restricted in any way. He actually felt full, felt satiated, but started to see the changes in his body composition as well as this lift in energy. So within 10 weeks on the Performance Accelerator, James's energy levels were up. He was feeling sharper at work, because his energy was now in alignment. He was feeling balanced. He was performing better and therefore feeling much more confident about his upcoming ultra marathons, partly because his body weight had been coming down. He wasn't in that plateau anymore. But importantly, he wasn't doing it and feeling restricted or like he was on a diet. He just felt confident with his new approach to nutrition. Some of the tools that I provided him, such as the energy bars recipe, so that he could do pre-fuels and refuels around his runs with things that he could have on the go, but were going to be higher nutrient density than a home-bought protein bar. He actually engaged his kids in that process too. And this gave me a massive smile, because in one of our consultations, he shared a photo of his kids making these energy bars that I had sent him. And in that way, he'd never thought he would be a role model with the habits that he used to have, but now he's passing on these positive nutritional habits to his kids. And this was a really nice side benefit of all of this coaching. And actually, I suppose it's probably the educational side of the coaching program coming through there that's given him this confidence and ability to pass on nutrition knowledge. Another client who I want to mention here is called Pete, who works in a high pressure corporate environment with quite a bit of stress involved in his job. And he is training for an ultra marathon. Now, he had a couple of ultra marathons in his calendar. One was it was a 5-day ultra in Sweden. So it was meant to be going around the Arctic Rim. So obviously very, very cold. And then the second one was in Snowdon. And in the weeks leading up to that Snowdon race, the heat was getting up and up and up, and it turned out to be 34 degrees on the day. And actually midway through, because of that heat, the race got called off because it was just so hot. How did we get him confident with his hydration strategy for both of those? Well, it comes down to education. And actually, we got to a point where Pete knew about his sweat rate in different environments. He had a strategy that he'd practiced in different environments, and he knew that regardless of what the weather threw at him, he was going to be able to feel good. Something you might resonate with Pete as well is he's someone who said, prior to our coaching, James, I've got a massive sweet tooth, and if I'm opening a bag of sweets, I have to finish them. There's no way I'm gonna leave half. Now, what's really interesting about the Nutrition for Energy coaching approach is that throughout the coaching with Pete, I never mentioned not to eat sweet. Instead, we worked on proactive strategies to naturally bring down his triggers and his cravings by shaping the path, but also by appropriately fueling, refueling, putting in a lot of the strategies that I've been teaching you here. What that'll do is it will naturally bring down the desire, those big craving moments. So if you have less desire for those in the moment, it's going to be easier to navigate. But hey, life does happen. Those moments do still arise. So it's not only doing proactive strategies, but also fitting in reactive strategies. So I armed Pete with some things that he could do in the moment to help navigate that space successfully. Very, very interesting is that I think it was 2-3 months after our coaching, Pete got back in touch and said, James, I'm still feeling really, really good about my cravings. In fact, I don't even say I have a sweet tooth anymore. That's mad, because that shows there's an identity shift as well. And that's another little habit that's going to help with long-term behavior change. If you've labeled yourself as someone who has to eat all the sweets or has a sweet tooth, then you already have created a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that when you do finish the bag, well, hey, of course you were, because you had a sweet tooth and you're someone who will finish. But now, because of that slight mindset shift, it marks that it's going to be progressively easier for Pete to stay on track. Does that make sense? So with Pete, he stopped guessing, basically. He stopped going through this process of trial, error, frustration. Because he now has the right knowledge, because I've fortunately been able to explain things in a way that lands and has registered with him, he now has trial, error, potentially, but then because he has the knowledge to be able to address the situation, trial, error, he can actually fix it and do it for himself. So trial, error, fix it. And instead of frustration, we now have confidence. And then we're off the cycle and we're moving in the right direction. And I think that really neatly explains exactly what I'm trying to do with my coaching program. I'm trying to get people off that cycle. I'm trying to educate and empower them with knowledge so they don't need me anymore. And if I can arm you with all the knowledge that you need to never speak to a nutritionist again, then fantastic. I'm literally trying to create autonomy with my clients. Go through the 10-week coaching program and then feel confident that they can continue on that new trajectory. So that time is now on their side. What's fascinating about this and behavior change is that the sooner you make that start, the trajectory changes, right? So you're on this trajectory, but then the benefit, it compounds over time. So over time, it just gets bigger and bigger. And honestly, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with all my clients. Create lasting autonomy so that you never have to speak to a nutritionist again. And actually, you're on the right trajectory so that time is now on your side and you can go and smash your goals. So if you're thinking, oh, I just don't have time for meal prep, or I don't have the headspace for this, or hey, I am getting older, maybe this is just normal, or I'll just try and download another app. Let me stop you right there. You don't need another restrictive diet or fancy piece of technology. You need to invest in yourself with a system that works with you and your physiology. And that's exactly why I built this program, the 10-week performance accelerator designed for busy professionals and athletes looking to rebuild their energy through systems and knowledge. You'll learn your personal energy map, your fueling systems, your hydration system, and you'll finally have complete confidence. The goal is to have you having control again, but control in a good way. I always joke that the Nutrition for Energy process is a terrible business model because I'm literally coaching you to never need me again, never follow a restricted diet or have to engage with a nutrition coach ever again. So even if you don't hit every goal in the 10 weeks, you're gonna walk away knowing exactly how to eat, how to fuel, and how to recover for the rest of your life. And each session is recorded, so you can always go back through and re-watch and relearn that in future. So if you're ready to stop feeling drained and start performing like the highest energy version of yourself, then click the link below. Spots are limited, so click now and I'll see you soon.